Resuming debate, the honour member for Windsor West.
I will be spending my time with the member for Edmonton Greenspa. This issue is serious and is one where, as New Democrats, will support this motion, as we have supported to shed more light on this, because we believe in the support of sustainable technology, but it has to be done with accountability, and it has to be done with a process that builds public confidence in this. And only this motion will provide a clearer path of where we need to go, because the Liberals continue to be in some type of spin cycle that they can't get out of, and will continue to do so until there's actually justice on this file. And when you look at SDTC, it was created under John Chrétien's government. It has survived all the way through successive Liberal and Conservative governments over this period in time. And most recently, it's poked its head out again because the workers brought forth the erosion of a good program and some good investments that were costing Canadians. And Madam Speaker, what's important to recognize too is that all the other competition that was going on for money in SDTC, which is 100% publicly funded, was at a loss because corrupt and poor decision-making process and political interference and intimidation sent money to projects that should not have been supported by their own internal investigations, and we're seeing now shed more light, probably had political favoritism involved at the very least. And Madam Speaker, that's unfortunate because all those other companies and investment strategies and programs and services are now under a cast shed of doubt, and we still to this day have not recovered a single cent from all that money that went out there. The practices got so bad that during the pandemic, they just decided we're going to give everybody a 5% raise because we can't bother to go through the files ourselves. We've given up. We're just going to give everybody 5% more across the board funding. On top of that, there was also 10% for some select companies, and surprise, surprise, familiar names have popped up and political connections have popped up. And so there still has not been a word from this government about what it's going to do about that. And during that process, some managers were getting bonuses. And board members, get this, declare a conflict of interest. They would get their packages, they would go into the boardroom, and they would know it's all on the table there, and they would get out for that moment, and then they'd come right back in to the same room. Over and over and over. And which was awful, there was a direct connection to the minister's office because we had a public servant staffer in there. And during all that decision-making process, during all that camaraderie, during all that time at the board table, there was no information apparently brought back to the minister or no recognition at a time when we had not one, not two, but now 3 reports about how poorly it operated and about how poorly the decision-making process was, and the culture of racism, sexism, an attack on French workers as well too was noted in terms of the whistleblowers that are part of this. Some lost their jobs, and you know what, Madam Speaker? They had to sign non-disclosure agreements just to get out of there. Non-disclosure agreements so they and their families could be protected. And so I had an amendment I wanted to propose today that would at least call on the government to apologize, because the government, not the minister, not anybody, has apologized to these workers. Not them, their families, the stress that they went through every day, having to go into a toxic workplace environment, being pressed to actually say yes to government money to hand out to people that they shouldn't have got to, being maligned in the public as SDT spokespeople defended the organization and the culture there at the expense of the whistleblowers. So I had a motion. It's ruled out of order because of the document requirement that's part of this motion is different than what I was proposing. So we'll look for another way to at least say sorry. How sad is that I have to come here today to get the government to say sorry for these whistleblowers? And by the way, I want to go back here in a second and let's recognize what's happened here. They created SDC at an arm's length distance, so-called, Because then, and part of this, the workers were not unionized and had lesser supports and structures for them and their families. And so now, during this process, I asked them, would you at least in the interim of all these months of investigations and circuses that are going on, would you allow them to have another public service job to get out of this toxic environment? But no, they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even do that for the remnants of the people that have held the line, have done the right things. And we still don't know who's going to be migrated over to the other agency now. They do have an association, so there'd be better rights there. But I don't know the full case story right now, and we don't even know if that's what they wanted. Perhaps some of them still wanted to actually leave and go somewhere else and start a new chapter for doing the right thing. We should have at least provided the choice for them. They have not done that. And part of that is because of their insincerity to protect workers. And just because they've recently come to the light with regard to anti-scab legislation doesn't mean they haven't continued to have the existing culture exist against workers. The other part that I was asking was that there be an independent evaluation to make sure that any of these managers and people in authority at least had an independent process to evaluate whether they should be migrated as well and keep their positions, and board members as well too. And that's a fair thing because there's probably some good people in there that don't need to be blanketed as part of the problems that took place because of bullying that took place in the workplace. So you had the Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton report, you had the confidential report of special committee, Osler report, Privy Council office got a report, and now we actually have the Auditor General's report. All basically because a number of people came forward and raised issues about people like Annette Verschuren and others that were in conflict of interest of deciding where money should go and where it shouldn't go. And Madam Speaker, this is sincerely the biggest part of this that we want to fix if we are going to have confidence in the public for doing work for sustainable technology. And I brought forth the question to my colleague just before this about where the Liberals are at this. So let's get an idea here. They left all these people, and they continue to do, to put them on their own and by themselves, and can't say sorry, but they had enough energy to buy a pipeline and manage the politics of a pipeline and continue to do so at 37 times the cost and less of the accountability that they are putting on the backs and the shoulders of the workers who they still can't even say they're sorry. So one of the interesting things that's come about this culture that still exists under Liberals, I recently just got a document as we are looking at the edge of a border closure potentially, Madam Speaker, and a potential strike. Here is what the departments under the government of the President of the Treasury Board and Minister of Public Safety should know about. Their management team right now to deal with our customs officers on the front line is this: an email that went out to their staff and to the unionized workers saying, quote, "A stress and anxiety rise with pending strike deadline on Friday, June 7, 2024. We wanted to send out some clarifying information to our team. Some officers across the country have received letters deeming their positions essential. In essence, this means that they have to report to work for duty despite being in a legal strike position. These determinations were made by PSAC and the Treasury Board collaboration. For those officers who did not receive a notification and therefore were not deemed essential, you have the choice to either participate in the legal strike actions or continue to report to your current work team. Whatever decision each team member makes will be respected and kept private. We will not be disclosing who is deemed essential and who is not. We will continue to support each other and continue to ensure our team is a healthy, supported team free of harassment. Should any team members who are not deemed essential decide to continue to report to work, please privately email me, as such reporting will be recorded to ensure those who reported are committed to be paid." What this does, Madam Speaker, it's an attempt to bring in scabs and to break the union. Right now, we have our border that could be closed for the economy and is being compromised for safety, and the President of the Treasury Board has a recommendation to treat these workers like every other border and every other public safety and every other officer by giving them the 25 years and out, and also ensuring the workplace is safe for all of us. Shame on the Liberals for continuing practices of their management underneath them and not caring about the workers that actually fight for Canadians every single day.
Questions and comments?